Okay, so as we saw from chapter 7 onwards, the topic changed into the cause of the universe. Right? The first six chapters were focusing on Kampada, which is the nature of you, according to the Gita. The next, from 7 to 12 chapter, the whole topic is Ishvara. Okay? Now, in that, what we saw is a few verses we have seen so far. The first analogy that was used is I'm like a string, okay, which puts together all the beads. So that string stands for all the different laws that govern the universe, right? And the beads represent what? All the people or all the living beings or all the planets, it can be anything. Now the second verse, then you may think that Ishvara is only the laws. Then the very second verse, it said that I'm also every bead itself, right? So therefore, every object that is governed by the laws, I'm that object also. Okay? Then we also saw the fact that then you may think that okay, that represents only the physical universe, right? The laws which govern the physical universe and the objects which are as we see all the tangible objects. Okay? So then in order to take your understanding further, the word Om was used, right? And to show that the universe represents not only the physical aspect, but it also represents what? So that Om was, it's a 3-letter word, and it is Akara, Ukara and Makara. And through Om, what was shown is Ishvara is not only the physical universe, okay? The physical universe includes my physical body and physical body of everyone, okay? The past, present and future. Okay? Subtle body, as I keep telling you, according to the Vedas, subtle body is something which is just, simple things like your capacity, the capacity of your 5 sense organs, capacity of your 5 organs of action, okay? Your pancha prana and your 4 different modes of thinking. This constitutes subtle body. Okay? So therefore, there is nothing to imagine like aura, and we don't talk about things like this. We just are being very rational. Okay? So therefore, that then means that Ishvara includes subtle body of what? Me and everything else. And that includes subtle body of what? The fish. Because they also have influence, right? Any living being, what is the difference between, very interesting, okay? What is the difference between a rock and a bird? Bird can fly, bird has some basic inference, right? They are very intelligent. If you observe, you read some of these things in National Geographic and you see how they very meticulously, build a nest so that they can, they can lay the egg. It's all very, very extremely well organized, right? They also exhibit a lot of intelligence. And who taught them? Who taught them how to build this nest? Exactly. It comes what? Along with their brain, their design. So therefore, that is also there is also a subtle body there. But different type of subtle body which makes their brain act differently than human brain. They don't go to school and then pass, and then they don't have an ambition, let me go to Europe this time and let me go to the US and let me go to Australia. They are happy whatever they are doing, and the whole life goes in just whatever they are doing. Okay? So that means the brain is programmed differently. Okay? So that means everything has a subtle, and when you say Ishvara includes the entire subtle universe, you must include everything in that subtle universe. Okay? Anything which is known to me and unknown to me, of the past, of the present and the future. Okay? Then you also saw that so Akara represents the physical universe, Ukara represents the subtle universe, and Makara represents the causal universe. Okay? So every physical and subtle body that is here now is connected to infinite past causes for it to be here. So who puts together all these different causes to decide that right now you're going to have this body, this set of circumstances to go through in life, this kind of parentage, this kind of resources? None of us decide. We are born into certain families. We are born into certain parentage. Nobody knows how future is going to unfold. Tomorrow, what exactly are going to be the events of my life? Nobody knows. We think that we know, but actually nobody knows. Okay? So that is what we call that whole causes, which are continuously what? The past, it is connecting the past with the present. Past with the present. And it is what? Making future unfold every day. Okay? So therefore, Ishvara also includes the causal. Okay? Now imagine everything. Okay? So what is the difference as I come back? What is the difference between a rock and a bird or a human being?
It's an inert object.
Sorry?
Inert object.
Excellent, right? The rock is an inert object and a bird and a human being is a living, right? So that means we call it sentient. Okay? Now, so according to this vision of Ishvara, okay, the rock has a physical form, so that is also within what? Ishvara, right? Because Ishvara is all the entire physical universe, which includes all the forms. Okay? A bird and a human being is also within Ishvara, because in addition to the physical form, we also have what? Subtle. So what is the difference between a rock and a living being is, any physical, any inert being, okay, has no subtle body. Whereas a living being has a subtle body. Okay? But all falls within what? Ishvara alone. Because Ishvara includes the physical, the subtle and the causal. Okay? So therefore, the objectivity that we have is generally the way we define objectivity. What is objectivity? Objectivity is seeing things as they are. Okay? Our definition of objectivity according to our empirical world, it ends with, if there is a snake and if you see it as rope, if there is a rope and if you see it as a snake, you are subjective, right? If it is dark and there is not enough light, and if you are in a forest, then what happens is you can see something of this shape and this width, and you may conclude that it is a snake. But what is actually there, for example, is rope, then are you being objective or you are subjective? You are subjective. Because why you are subjective? Because you are not seeing things as they are. What is a rope, and what you see is a snake. Okay? So that means what you see does not correspond to what reality is. Okay? So therefore, this is the definition of subjectivity. What is out there is not what you see. What you see is something different. Okay? So according to everybody, your objectivity ends when you see rope as a rope. That's it. Right? According to the Vedic vision, the objectivity lies in what? If Ishvara is everywhere, and if you don't see Ishvara at all, are you objective? Right? So it stretches your objectivity to another level altogether. Okay? Because Ishvara Om is all the physical forms, it is all the subtle forms, and it is all the causal forms. Right? And if you are not in touch with this reality, then you are subjective. That means you are not living in the world as it is, you are living from what you think the world is. Okay? And what is wrong in being subjective? You can say, I can live with my subjectivity, so what? Huh?
Reality is like
You are further,
inferring whatever you want.
absolutely, you are further and further away from reality. Let's say if there is Ishvara everywhere and your starting point is that either there is no Ishvara or Ishvara is somewhere away from you, sitting like an uncle. You are starting with what? A highly distorted vision of reality. And your starting point is so wrong, and then you try to fix all the problems within that starting point, which is a wrong thing. So that means your whole interpretation of what the world is wrong. Because you don't actually, your starting point is wrong. So you have concluded, I am only this individual. Every other individual is something which is separate from me. Okay? And I need what? To be fulfilled through what? Grabbing things. And in my grabbing, I am not very careful about if I step on somebody else's foot or not. So that means, and then when I do that, then what happens? It brings certain conflict in me. So that means I start with a wrong starting point of not understanding the world accurately. Then I add what? When I step on somebody else's foot, then what happens? The feeling of guilt is something which is inevitable. So that means I add one more distortion. You keep on entangling yourself further and further and further. It's incredible. Then as the result will come, which is, because your karma was not very appropriate, when the result comes in form of a difficulty, you further conclude life is unfair. Or you feel that you are a victim of circumstances. So that means you keep on going further and further from reality. And the more you go away from the reality, more and more your suffering is going to be.
The difference between seeing it as a phenomena and a phenomenon.
Sorry?
The difference between phenomena and phenomenon.
Yeah.
Good morning.
I didn't see you. I suddenly see this outside, Mama.
This is the phenomenon.
The sun rises in the west today. What was in the east?
Difference between phenomena and
Phenomenon. That which cannot be seen by the senses.
exactly.
So that means that in fact, it cannot be seen by the senses, but it can be understood by the mind. That's why the teaching is. Right? Because the mind is where all the ignorance is, mind is where all the corrections take place. That's why you need to think about things. Right? The same experiences which gives you wrong knowledge, but the same experiences are used by the Vedas to correct your vision. And make you re-look at it. Rethink about things that you have concluded. Okay? So therefore, the implication of Ishvara being everywhere, if you understand, it's huge. It's not like, yeah, so what? What difference does it make in my life whether Ishvara is everywhere or Ishvara is some person sitting on top? You whole conclude, there are series of conclusions which you go wrong. And those series of conclusions are direct causes for your suffering. So if you want to get rid of your suffering, you have no choice but to what? Change your vision in keeping with realities. Okay. So therefore, this is what we understand by, and this is where ahimsa becomes a huge value. Okay. Because if everything is Ishvara and you are indifferent to just taking life of somebody or some animal or whatever, it is huge. You are disturbing the whole balance of the universe. And when you do that, there is a consequence. That you can't avoid consequences because you can't hide from Ishvara's laws.
But when you're eating non-veg, that is part of the food chain, isn't it?
So not really. I mean that, okay, I don't want to get into that because you are doing more harm. The normal food chain is the
There's a veg
plants.
food chain and a non-veg food chain. You are the wrong one.
One is a little bit more cruel than the other, but forget it. Okay. So anyway, any harm does not only mean non-veg, right? I don't want you to become one-dimensional and think that all the people who eat non-veg are bad. This is not at all what I mean to convey. I only mean that the more you take care of the implications of your actions on just the totality of things, because totality is Ishvara. Okay? The more you are evolved. But that can happen in so many different areas, not only in your food choices, but you know, the minute you hurt somebody emotionally.
If I just wonder.
Yeah.
One of the earlier classes I like.
Yes.
Food chain. The example given to me was, if you have a goat,
Yeah.
you take very,
I didn't give that example.
no, not you.
Okay.
You give very good care of it, you give it milk every day, you treat it as a pet.
Yeah.
And then you kill it one day, you feel very bad about it. Because that goat understands your love and suddenly you kind of chop it. But fish, chicken or whatever, or even the meat you get, these animals have taken birth to be part of the food chain.
So this is not what I mean. See, basically, this is a little bit of a Western. Okay, now that you are insisting that I talk about it, maybe I will talk about it.
Maybe I turn vegetarian.
Yeah, so maybe then I'll do one good job of making you a vegetarian. So I will deviate a little bit from here and I'll talk about vegetarianism. So now, okay. So what is the argument for veg? I'm deviating a little bit.
I'm veg and I'm going to turn back to non-veg.
No, Mohammed, then I must talk about it.
Don't cover the topic because
So he's turning back to non-veg.
So now everybody wants, no, you are a veg, I want you to remain veg.
There's all distorted thinking.
So I need to correct them all before we proceed.
In fact, Gujaratis are more evolved.
And all the Gujaratis all children are becoming my kids too.
Okay, let's listen to it.
Okay, let's listen to the arguments for vegetarianism. Okay, so the arguments, generally what people give arguments is like health, right? So they say, oh, it's good for health, the vegetables and fruits and this and that. But actually the arguments are far deeper than that. Okay, the first argument is ahimsa. Ahimsa is something which is what we call non-violence. According to us, the animals are not given birth to serve us. Right? They are independent entities and they have what? Instinct. You go to a cow and there is in Upanishad, Taittiriya Upanishad, this example is given. Adi Shankaracharya gives this example. He says, you go to a cow smiling and with a grass, what is the cow going to do? Going to come towards you. And you go to a cow with a kind of a stick, an angry face. What is the cow going to do? It's going to run away from you. Okay? So that means the instinct for survival is something which is given to every living being. Okay? No living being is born to be sacrificed for another living being. Impossible. That is not how the program is. A program of every living being is to survive. This is what we call survival instinct. Okay? This is why when you go to Masai Mara, you go to or Serengeti, and it's amazing. They take you to this place where all these there is a water body. This is where all the animals come to drink water. Okay, so now this lioness, she knows exactly to come to this place to catch, right? So that's why you actually physically see on these deers, okay, they are drinking water and they are very calm and they are very peaceful. Okay? But while they are drinking water, they are constantly looking like this. Why are they looking like this? because they are aware that there can be some animal who can just come and what? Take them. So therefore, you will see if one lioness or any other animal, they all just run away. They are so alert. Who taught them? Who taught them? Nobody taught them. This is part of their programming. This is what we call Ishvara. Ishvara is, it has designed the brain of every living being. Okay? And every living being is the program of a living being is I want to survive. I don't want to be sacrificed for somebody else. Now, this is how it is. So therefore, the thing that animals are made for us to enjoy is a wrong starting point. This is not what we believe. Right? Now second, now I have to make a choice about my food. And I have options. Right? A human being, so for example, when a lion eats a deer, it's a program. Okay? They are carnivore. Okay? And a cow eats a grass is also a program. They are herbivore, right? I mean, it's something which is given. Largely, it is
By
programmed.
Ishvara.
By Ishvara. Given by Ishvara. So you can't say a lion is unethical if lion eats deer, because this is part of their programming. Okay? But a human being has a choice. You have a choice. You have a free will and you have a choice. Okay? And in that choice, the rule is what? Your actions should do minimum harm possible. Okay? So that means total not harming is not possible. Because even when you walk on the street, you may kill so many things that you don't even know. Right? Even when you choose vegetarian food, plants also have life. So you are doing some harm, especially when you are uprooting certain things, you are. Okay? But the magnitude of harm, when you, and many times, right, you pluck a fruit, are you killing the tree? You are not. Okay? Or many of the vegetables are just kind of, given to you, okay, without, they don't have to give up their lives at all. So then you pluck a little bit and that causes maybe slight pain, but then that's it. So therefore, the choices that you have made is causing much less harm and what? Basically, not disturbing the ecology of things. Now, imagine that all these animals, the whole livestock industry, okay, they are all what? They are all in one room and they are all what? Fed, and they are force fed sometimes, right, to become what? Big. Sometimes they are injected with hormones. Okay? So the whole life is what? You become bigger and bigger and bigger, and then one day you along with all the other animals go to a slaughterhouse. You are doing this whole journey to slaughterhouse. In that slaughterhouse, the animal, they are all lined up. You see the previous one, they are very aware. Okay? They are very aware and they see this live animal who's like so force-fed and almost dull and because it's not given the normal life, right? It's now gone there and what? Slaughtered. The senses, the animal knows that who is next? I am next. What happens to them at that time is something which is extremely traumatic, because this is the natural program. Okay? So therefore, what they release some of these chemicals which are in the body, which are highly toxic. Obviously, because they want to. I mean, imagine if you, a human being, sees that that person in front of me is gone and my turn is the next. What would you do?
Okay.
Huh?
Be fearful.
Huge, huge. I mean, you cannot imagine the magnitude of that fear. Okay? So therefore, then you go and then what? You are just like cut off. And then all the blood and all the things, it is just cruel. Okay? And you don't think about it because it kind of comes to you in a nice plate, right? Very well presented. So you just think, oh, that's food. Okay? But if you think about it, you are participating in one of the cruelest activities of the world. And the thing is, what happens is that when you eat that food, which is what? Born of a lot of fear, sorry?
The toxins are
All, everything, and your own thinking becomes what? Becomes grosser than when you are just eating plants. Okay? So therefore, it is that ahimsa is a huge value. We think that giving up vegetarianism and becoming meat eaters is a sign of modernism. It's not. Okay? Then we are born into a culture which is subtle, which is sensitive. Traditionally, almost I think 80% of the country was vegetarian. And now the rich kids, the educated kids become non-veg because, oh, it's not cool to be veg. But actually, you are becoming far more insensitive than you choose. And eating is an activity that you do how many times a day?
4 or 5 times.
Yeah, 4 or 5 times a day. Okay? And in that, if you just choose not to think about it, okay? And if you think that, okay, it is inconsequential, that means you don't have a subtle enough mind to examine the repercussions of your actions. Okay? So therefore, vegetarian is a much more refined choice, least harm possible. Okay? This is the argument from the standpoint of what we call ahimsa. There is a second argument. Now there are lots of, and if you go and ask in California, they will all say related to health. So one is a health argument, second is the ethical argument, and the third nowadays, people talk a lot about ecology. Okay? Livestock industry, so much we say that there is dearth of food because livestock industry takes away all the corn and everything that is grown in the US is not meant for human beings. It is all meant for feeding all these animals. So that means so much the farmland of this earth is just occupied to feed the livestock, and then what? You kill them and you eat that meat. Whereas if you release that farmland, it has enough food to what? Feed not only those animals but also human beings. So that means you are disturbing not the whole ecological balance.
It is something like 8 to 9 times.
8 to 9 times, right? So
you are feeding. If everybody becomes vegetarian, you have like 10 times the amount of food available.
Or you need 15 times the amount of calorific value to create 1 calorie of meat as compared to 1 calorie. That's not true.
Yeah.
But even in the US, the idea is also ethical. There are some vegetarians who will only eat food that is dropped from it.
Yeah, that is even much more sensitive. That's true. So you can keep on becoming more and more. See, Jains, for example, they don't uproot. So that means they are even more sensitive than normal vegetarians. In some. Exactly. Only with reference to their food choices, right? It doesn't mean in every other area. Only in this particular area. So when
that naturally when you are in this area when you are more subtle, let's
does it naturally lead to a progression of becoming more subtle?
In other areas, yeah. In some ways. Because you have one
Does
brain.
it is a big question.
Yeah.
Yes, that's the
Yeah, but it's not the only. That's why, as you will see, 14th chapter of Bhagavad Gita will talk about sattvic, being sattvic, right? Now the sattvic choices are further broken down into many different areas. Just by food habit, you cannot judge a person and say this person is tamasic because the person is eating on it. Not at all, right? There are every human being is multidimensional. So this is only one aspect. It's not like the only deciding factor to decide whether the human being is sattvic or not. No. This is why Gita is very subtle. It makes you see that, hey, you can't just judge people like that. But you do need to think about this. The ecology argument, which is another argument, is that all these cattle, when they are fed so much, okay, they release this gas, right? And that is causing so much more global warming problem than even this car pollution. That is a huge contributor. Okay? So therefore, all the choices that you make, you can't just say, because this is what we say, your normal level of objectivity, Gita stretches. And it makes you see that you are part of a whole design of things. You are not an individual. And that whole design of things is Ishvara. And the laws. And if you create disturbance, then what? The result comes back to you in one way or the other. So you are free to make the choices, but for every choice that you make, there is a cost or a reward. So you need to learn how to make the right choice.
For Rajiv, is not that difficult because Amrita vegetarian is fabulous.
So now you said you're turning veg or non-veg?
So Maman, you are remaining non-veg. Remaining veg.
I'm in an ethical
Dilemma.
His marriage is at stake now. The wife is cooking meat and he better eat it.
His wife doesn't eat.
Joking. Oh, okay. She's also vegetarian. Then what's your problem?
She wants to be she wants to eat meat.
She wants you to eat meat.
That's why she's kept the kids non-veg. But I wanted them to be vegetarian. I find everybody.
So then why are you thinking of moving to non-veg?
I was non-veg. I've become veg. I'm not sure how long I can continue.
Okay, so now think
Your
about
personal
it,
choice.
right? So then there is a the second argument is ethics, ecology, okay, and health. Everything together, it is a much more refined choice. Okay? But people are free to make their choices because so much of our eating habits are based on the food that we ate in the childhood and all that. So body, sometimes I feel that some people's body actually requires meat because as a childhood, it's like nowadays people are talking about dairy products not being good, but there are some kids like in Southeast Asia, they are born with no dairy products. It's very easy, right? But the kids who are born with dairy products, dahi and stuff like that, the system somehow needs it, even if nowadays there is a lot of research about dairy products not being good. So there is a little bit of this programming too. So every time you are working against a program, it is an effort. Okay? But at the same time, if you're already making a choice which is more enlightened, there is no need to go back to a more primitive choice. So,
There you go, your answer.
You are not being to a Parsi.
so
Anyway, Parsis are born Tamils. Don't have to worry.
okay, now the problem comes that now that I move next, right? The next two verses I want to do today. This is chapter 9, verse 4 and 5. Maya tatamidam sarvam jagadavyatyamurtina vasthani sarvabhutani nachaham dveshvavastitaha nachamasthani bhutani pashyame yogamaishwaram Bhutabrahmana cha bhutastaha Mahatma Bhuta Bhavanaha. We will chant after me. Maya Tatavidam Sarvam Jagadapyartha Murtina Masthani Sarvabhutani Nachaham Tveshvavasthitaha Nachamasthani Bhutani Pashyame Yogamaishwaram Bhuta Brahmana cha Bhutastaha Mamatma Bhuta Bhavanaha. So when you say Ishvara is everything, there is one problem. One problem is you could have one question. Okay? Because before you thought that my anger is whose anger? My anger. Her anger, her sadness is her sadness. Her jealousy is her jealousy. Okay? Now what we have discovered is Ishvara is everything. Ishvara is all the physical bodies, Ishvara is all the minds, Ishvara is every cause which makes every physical and subtle body come. So now all this anger and sadness and jealousy, where does it belong? Ishvara. Exactly. Because there is only one entity which is Ishvara. Okay? So now, how can Ishvara be what? Fraught with all these angers and sadness, and it is huge. Right? This is a question that a very famous psychologist, Carl Jung. Have you heard of Carl Jung? He's a big name, like Freud. He was a disciple of Freud, and then he became very big. Okay? So therefore, this Jung had a question. He said that when I look at the world, he was very clever. Okay? He says that there must be a cause of the universe because it's so well designed. Okay? But we generally attribute only the good things, right? We say love, God is what? Loving, it is caring, it is all the good things are attributed to this God. So then he said, if we attribute only the good things to God, okay, then where is the source? How much of the world is all love and care and this, and how much of it is violence? You open the newspaper.
That's why you have the devil.
So, exactly. Right, absolutely. So you have violence, you have all kinds of very, very wars, you have people who are extremely greedy, you have people who are extremely egoistic, very proud. So he says, now, what is the source of all of that? So he said, if you have another entity, that's why very easily they said, okay, now that doesn't belong to God, so then you are occupied by devil. They need to create another entity. Okay? So this is where, as Rita says, they have actually an entity called devil. Then Carl Jung says, then what kind of a God is this? Because God, which represents all the good, and what percentage of the world is taken by good? Small. It seems like it. Okay? And how much of it is occupied with all these different problems? Huge part. So that means if this is your vision of what God is very small compared to the devil. And God is constantly fighting against devil to establish its own, okay, a certain amount of its own kingdom. He says, what kind of God is this? Helpless God. And he says, therefore, what is his conclusion? His conclusion is, therefore, I don't believe in God. If Carl Jung had known this verse, the whole thing would have reconciled. This question that he had about attributing only the good qualities to God, right? And then creating another source from where all the evil qualities come creates logically a big split. So your understanding of God has to go one step further to reconcile this problem. Okay? So therefore, this verse reconciles. Okay? The reconciliation comes through this amazing methodology of what we call Satya and Mithya. Okay? First, let us look at the relationship of Satyam and Mithya and then see how it applies to Ishvara. Okay? In this case, this is what we saw. The table is what we saw is Mithya. Why do we call it Mithya? Because it has a dependent existence on the wood. Okay? And wood is what we call Satyam because it is independent of the table. Why do I say it is independent of the table? Because I can dismantle the table and I can make a totally different object out of it. That's why it is, when the table is destroyed, the wood is not destroyed. That's why it is independent. Okay? So therefore, in any Satya-Mithya relationship, understand, okay? The table cannot exist without wood. The height of the table, the width of the table, the breadth of the table, the whole thing is what? Decided by the wood. Where there is wood and there is space. This is how we decide. But while the wood creating all these dimensions for the table, does it ever get affected by the dimensions? The height belongs to the table, not to the wood. The width belongs to the table, not to the wood. Okay? This is why, because if wood had become this height and this width, you cannot dismantle it, as Nita says, and make it into a totally different dimension. So, the relationship is Satyam pervading Mithya. It is what? Free from the attributes of Mithya. That is a huge thing. The Satyam, which is the wood, pervading Mithya, which is the table, is free from the attributes of Mithya, which is the table. Yes? So therefore, you can say, now take it in form of Ishvara. Imagine if Ishvara is Satyam, it pervades the whole creation and the whole creation is Mithya, then pervading the whole creation, it is free from the attributes of what? The forms of Mithya.
Huge statement.
It's a huge statement. Okay. Now, let us see how I can understand that. Okay. How I can understand that is, let's take our own example, right? Because what I said is, Ishvara will become what? Subject to anger.
Sorry?
If Ishvara pervades everything, then Ishvara is what? All anger of not only you and me, but the angriest person in this world. So now, let us look at that. What is the relationship? The relationship is, now see, there is, let's say, anger in you, right? So what is happening at the level of brain?
Agitation.
Some agitation is happening, right? What is happening precisely if you ask the brain activity that is taking place? The neurons are ticking, and right, there are some connections. This is what we call neuron pathways, right? Some connections are made which is producing that emotion of anger in me. Okay? While I experience the intensity of the emotion of experience, can I say that the neurons are angry? No. I can't say neurons are angry because next minute, if something pleasant happens, the same neurons wired differently will give me the experience of pleasure. Neurons, I cannot have any experience without the neurons. But the neurons themselves intrinsically are what? Neither happy, nor sad, nor angry, nor what? Any of the emotions that I feel. Right? So the relationship between what? The emotion that I have, which is what? I cannot have those emotions without neurons. But the neurons which are able to give me that emotion are free from all the emotions that I experience.
The emotions to the neurons.
Excellent. You can't attribute the emotions, whatever that you are feeling, to neurons. They make all the different emotions possible. They themselves are free from all the different emotions. This is why one time they make you feel happy, next time they can make you feel useless, third time very on top of the world. They make you feel all these different things throughout your lifetime. They are free from all. So therefore, now imagine neurons which give you those feelings themselves are free from all the feelings that you feel. Okay? Then what about the intelligence which designs those neurons in a way that it can give you all these different emotions? Is intelligent with the intelligence, the basic intelligence which is Ishvara, is it sad or is it no? It is that intelligence which designs not only neurons but also the chemicals in your brain plus the electric pathways that are there, which makes all these varied experiences possible for you. Okay? So that intelligence which is constantly making all these changes, which gives you these different experiences, is intrinsically free from whatever you feel. Ishvara, pervading your buddhi, is free from the afflictions that you feel. This is how Ishvara pervading everything. This is what he says. Maya pratamidam sarvam. I pervade everything, but I am free from everything. Otherwise, Ishvara would be loaded with billions of problems. Okay. So therefore, this intelligence which is constantly creating what changes at the level of cells in my body. I don't tell that, oh, now this cell has to go, the time has come and the new cell has to come. Ishvara is that intelligence which has programmed the human body in a way that how many cells leave the body in one day, how many new ones are generated. You don't even, if I ask you, Namrata, how many cells go and come and go every day? Do you know? You don't even know. It's not you are who's sitting and guiding now, the time has come and the time has come for you to go. It's all just, this is what we call intelligence. Okay. Now, imagine, in case of cancer, what happens? Exactly. Those cells, there is a natural program which makes them generate at a certain speed. In cancer, what happens is it goes haywire. So that means they generate much more than what they should. So that means there is this intelligence which governs that if your state of mind is like this, if your physiology is disturbed, then this is the consequence. Okay? The intelligence is something which constantly gives you different experiences. Intelligence is free from everything. So this is what we call a disease. A disease means there is certain order, and when things go out of that order is what we call disease. And why things go out of the order? We go to a doctor and they will find out the causes. The causes means there is an intelligence. If this has gone outside the order, this could be the causes. This is what we call Ishvara, cause and effect relationship. Itself is free from what? It doesn't have an intention, oh, I'm going to give hard time to this woman, I'm going to give her a cancer. No. It doesn't have a will. It is in form of laws which constantly makes everything behave according to the laws. Laws of what? Laws of physics, laws of biology, laws of psychology, laws of physiology, laws of karma, and laws of dharma. So you can't afford to say, oh, the world is mithya, so let me do what I want. Hey, no. Because this mithya world is all nothing but Ishvara. And you can't, what? Bypass Ishvara. This is why a medical researcher, okay, can they reprogram the body? They have to work within the program. And when something has gone, has deviated from the order, you have to what? The whole attempt is to bring it back in the order.
So what is a pacemaker? You're programming the heart to beat some form of beat.
Exactly. So that means a heart has a certain beat, right? And it is not capable of doing it. So you create a machine which will help it to beat. So you are still within the order. You can't recreate the program of the heart and say, you can't do that. Okay? Every scientific research is all within Ishvara. Please understand. When you decide to go to a space, to go for a space travel, you have to act within what? The laws of gravity as it exists outside the atmosphere. You don't create that. It's given. Everything that is given is Ishvara.
So whatever we find, we discover, we don't create.
Excellent, right? Anything. So the laws of gravity were already there, right? Before Newton discovered it. Okay? The whole universe was already, the apples were always falling and not going up. Okay? So no human being, please understand this, no human being creates knowledge. We only remove our ignorance. Knowledge is already created. That is what we call all knowledge, sarvagana. Human body has already come designed, intricate design. Every organ and how it, not only performs its own function, but it works in conjunction with every other organ. Yes, this is incredible. Okay? So therefore, this Ishvara is right now, if you want to understand where is Ishvara, right now, billions of your cells are what? Coordinating. Billions. And that is allowing you to listen to me, allowing you to see me, and not only me, but everybody else. Your digestive system is going, your respiratory system is doing its work, your circulatory system is doing its work. It's all given. That intelligence which makes it all work for what? 100 years of that program, that is what we call Ishvara. Where will you go and search for Ishvara? Tell me. It's here. It's everywhere. Because you're not sitting, you don't even know. If I ask you how many organs are there in your body, name them. you know, when medical students, they join medical school, they have the first course that they have to do is human anatomy. And they say it's one of the most difficult courses, because to remember every part of your body and so many different parts, it is so tough. So that means that whole thing, what the parts are already there, they're already put together, they're all doing their job, you know, and they're all doing a marvelous job. Okay, this is what we call Ishvara. So Ishvara is everywhere, being everything, it is free from everything. That is the key. Okay. Programming the cells to work in a certain way, and because of some causes for those cells to go out of balance, while doing all this, it does not become affected by the body.
So something in our body is not working, we don't blame Ishvara.
We don't. Exactly.
You blame the karma and dharma.
Exactly. Absolutely. Excellent. Right? You don't blame Ishvara. Ishvara is the design which is what? Making those forms in that given way because of some laws of. Exactly. Because of so many laws. Excellent. So you don't blame Ishvara. You try to understand the laws of Ishvara and what? Bring your body back into alignment in keeping with those laws. This is what we call intelligent living, incorporating Ishvara in your decision making.
So what does Vedanta say about choice?
The choice is something that means you have, as a human being, you have a choice. You have a free will. Okay? Either you can totally disregard the realities and you can act from what you think the world is, or you can invest in knowing what is and realign your actions to the re-understanding of the world is. The choice belongs to you. That is what we call free will.
So Ishvara is free from that free will.
Exactly. Ishvara is because of which the program of free will exists. Itself is free from free will. Excellent. Okay. How is it that a lion is born?
Making a wrong choice is not Ishvara's.
It's not Ishvara's fault. Exactly. Exactly. This is what we call escapism. Right? Because if Ishvara had given you free will without making you kind of understand what is right and what is wrong, there is a faulty design. This is why for us the source of dharma is not just your personal responsibility. It is something which is what? Part of human programming. The law of dharma is there, and every human being is born with some innate understanding of what is right.
You have free will and your consciousness.
Exactly. You have free, along with free will. It's like, you know, you are as a free
You know the laws. The dharma laws have been given to you. It's in your DNA.
Exactly, it's in your DNA. It's part of the program. But you can use
You can
your
ignore
free
it,
will
or
to
you
enjoy.
can be sensitive to it.
Exactly.
So when you say Ishvara is free of free will,
So that means that Ishvara is free of free will in the sense that Ishvara as the intelligence has programmed, let's say, a cow. Okay? So that cow, with the brain of a cow, it doesn't have a total free will. It has some, as I told you, some inference, some survival instincts, it has, right? But it does not have the cow doesn't get PhD in biology, for example. Okay? So that means it is programmed. Ishvara has also programmed a human being differently. It is free from all these different programs. It is an intelligence because of which all these different programs exist. It's free from everything. Because imagine if Ishvara became cow's intelligence, it cannot become what? Rat's intelligence. If it became rat's intelligence, it cannot become human intelligence. In order for it to be what? Governing all the different intelligences. It has to be free from all the different intelligences. This is what we call Sarvatma.
Sorry?
Sarvatma. Sarvatma is all knowledge, which is not one given thing in the universe, because of which everything exists and everything is what? Connected to everything else. Okay? So therefore, this is what he says, that nachaham teshu avasthita. Things exist in me, but I don't get affected by whatever happens to those things. Otherwise, Ishvara will be so affected by everything.
So just as happiness, joy, all the good qualities which we claim are programmed, even fear, anger, everything is programmed in our DNA, right?
Excellent. So therefore,
how we use it is where we go wrong.
This is where, exactly. So that's why when in Vedanta we talk about emotions, we don't necessarily label the emotions as positive and negative. Because every emotion is part of human program. It's Ishvara. You can't just say, oh yeah, this is negative. No. But you can learn based on the wisdom, based on the clarity about what is what, you can learn to manage your emotions better. This is what we say. We are not talking about eliminating emotions, we are talking about managing emotions. That gives such a release, because imagine you make one thing negative and then you want to stay away from it your whole life. You are what? And you can't totally avoid it.
You won't be angry, not possible.
Not possible. Sometimes it's not, because it's a deep program on fear. Not possible. Sometimes, as I explained to you, healthy. Okay? That when you are, at least when I was living in New York and just very close to this border of Parliament, you see some person, big people walking at night, you have to, it does create fear. Okay? And you need to take precautions based on that fear that is created. Imagine you are crossing the road and you have no fear at all. You will be doing all crazy things. So fear has its place. Don't think, don't label it, that it makes you survive. Okay? So therefore, the only thing that we are talking about is managing. Sometimes that very fear which is very useful becomes what? Something which totally takes over your mind and you are totally preoccupied by fear. Imagining things which have not yet happened and your mind starts thinking that they are going to happen, and you are caught in that thing. That you need to manage. This is what we call psychological fears. Okay? So this is why when we talk about emotions, we are very careful. We don't give simplistic messages, because the whole creation and the whole design is Ishvara, and you have to learn to what? Navigate your life within the laws of Ishvara. And first understand that all that is here is Ishvara. That is a starting point. This is the level at which Gita works. Because you don't conclude when you look at the world, you have no understanding of the fact that Ishvara pervades everything.
What is the significance of going to temple searching for Ishvara?
Okay. Do you have time? Now these are good questions you need to know, right? This is a nice question. Okay. So now we have this. This is a Vedic vision. Okay. The Vedic vision of Ishvara is that which pervades everything. You ask any simple guy in the village, Ishwar kahan hai? Sab mein. Right? This comes from where? This comes from Gita. It comes from the Vedas. It doesn't say vaha hai. It says sab mein. May not be able to give you all the arguments which I gave to make you see that reality, but has intuitive understanding. So now let us see where it is Vedic culture coming from. When I talked about all these different laws, right? Now let's see. Objects and laws. This is what the whole universe is. Objects and different laws which are governing the objects. Okay. Now, when you see the sun, what is there in the object sun? What is there? Gases, right? Gases. What else? Yeah, heat and gases. This is all there is. Okay. So when you, every morning I live on Juhu Beach, and every morning I see people walking on the beach, and so many of them do this. Are they doing namaskara to gases in the heat? They see the intelligence behind what makes the sun what it is. This particular thing, which is just nothing but gases and heat, what does it do for me? What does it do for me? It makes my life possible. Okay? It makes my life possible because if sun was little closer to earth, what will happen? Will burn. If it was little farther, we will freeze. The distance between the sun and the earth is constant for how many years? Billions of years. Okay? Now, imagine this galaxy is not stationary. Everything is moving at a very high speed. Okay? They are not only moving like that, but they are also moving in their own axis. Within all these activities, the distance between the earth and the sun remains constant with this high speed. If little out of balance, the whole thing will be wrong. Okay? So that means that is the positioning of the sun. With that position, what does it do? The plants, which are sitting here quietly, they are what? Accessing the energy of sun through a process called what? Photosynthesis. And actually, they are the ones, the nature's design is such, they produce food through the energy of the sun. What an ingenious design. Taking the energy of the sun, you go and see a nutritionist. How many different vitamins and minerals and proteins and all that you need? It keeps on increasing. Okay? All that the plant kingdom is able to produce. This ingenious design. So therefore, the plants are able to produce just through the energy of the sun. So therefore, this is the role that the sun plays in addition to just providing me life. When the plants have to grow, what do they need? They need rainwater. How is rainwater produced? The ocean water evaporates because of the sun, and it forms what? Clouds. And those clouds, what? At the right time produce rain. Okay? The sun participates in all these activities day and night. One day it doesn't say today is Sunday, so I'm going to take off. Okay? So you are not ignorant about all of that. You do namaskara. Because you are not doing namaskara to gas and heat. You are doing namaskara to that intelligence which places the sun, and being where it is, how many different functions it does to make my life possible. That intelligence is something that you are not ignorant of. You bring it in your awareness. This is Vedic culture. And you what? You salute. And because you recognize the contribution. Not only the contribution, but the placement, which is Ishvara. Okay. Then you look at the water. You go to Rishikesh and you will see Ganga. Why Ganga becomes one of the most revered rivers? It is just a river, and sometimes if you just look at objectively, it could be probably much more polluted than many rivers of the world. But where is the resilience coming from? Again, the Vedic vision. Right? Water. The role of water in life. Human body without water is what, 80 or 70% water? How many days it will survive without water? How many days? You can go without food, but you try to go without water. So, it not only water, it does so many. When you drink water, it does so many things. Nowadays, in a detox program, what do they tell you? Drink water. Because that's the one which actually allows you to get rid of all the toxics in your body. It hydrates the body. Okay? So therefore, this water is given to me. My body requires water. There was a UN study a few years ago when I was there, and they said one of the greatest problems of the world in next few years is going to be shortage of water. Potable drinking water. So if we don't take care of our natural resources, this is, imagine there is no water, what will happen? That's why people are coming up with technology to what? Because ocean water is plenty, but we don't have technology to convert that into potable water. The sun does that job. So therefore, you need, Vedic life is means you are aware. You don't take things for granted. The universe is designed in a way, constantly it is giving you things for you to survive, and you have to show your gratitude. Okay? So therefore, you pray to the tree. Tree is a source of food. So that way, everything you pray, because in that there is an intelligence which makes it do the job that it does. So you see something more than the form. Behind every form you see Ishvara. And who do you pray to? Ishvara. Which, being in that form, gives you quality. Okay? Now, Ishvara are all the forms you can give. That's why they say we do Namaste. Namaste is what? Namahate. Namahate, I am bowing down to Ishvara within you. Imagine that awareness. This is Vedic culture. We are born in this culture. This is why people call India a spiritual country. This is in and through every form of ours. What I am talking about seems like Gita and all, we are living, but we have no clue. We are living in that culture, but we don't understand the meaning. So therefore, as Gita says, I am doing what? Namaha to Ishvara, which is Namaha, Namaste. That is the Vedic research. So that means every form is what? Ishvara's form. Imagine the way you will interact with the universe if you are aware of this. Far more careful. The second thing is not only the forms but also the laws are Ishvara. What we have included in our understanding of the laws is physical, biological, psychology, dharma, karma. Now you need to understand some other laws. What are the other laws? The other laws is everybody wants to be wealthy. Everybody. Nobody wants to be poor by choice. Okay? But everybody cannot also become rich. There are laws which govern that. Who gets what well, in what form, in what degree. So that law is what we recognize the presence of that law and we name it. What is the name? Lakshmi. specific, you are invoking that law. And even Lakshmi for us is divided into Ashtalakshmi. We understand that the wealth need not be only financial wealth. It is what? Dhana Lakshmi, Dhanya Lakshmi, Griha Lakshmi, Santana Lakshmi. We further divide. Wealth can be in form of your children. Wealth can be in form of not only just the finances, but also what? The food or you know, in some homes, in America sometimes you see, people can be very rich but they can still eat frozen food. In India we are very lucky because every meal is a fresh food. There is wealth. Huge. You don't realize. Okay? There is a different type of wealth that you can eat fresh food every day. It's a wealth. And you acknowledge that. Okay? Dhana Lakshmi, Dhanya Lakshmi, Santana Lakshmi, Griha Lakshmi. Wealth in form of a nice home. You can have all the riches, you can have the most refined food, but the relationships are all disturbed. How much are you going to enjoy all these nice objects and all the nice things that you are surrounded by? You need Griha Lakshmi. Griha Lakshmi means a warm home. A home which is not just a house, it's not just the walls and all the pieces that are existing. It is how human beings interact within that four walls. That is what we call grace. And you invoke the grace. You don't take it for if it is disturbed, you ask for that grace to bring that warmth in that home. This is how you become aware. This is why Vedic living is living within the laws of Ishvara. Asking for help in specific areas. So this is what we call Santana Lakshmi. You have children, but what if you have useless children? Drug addict. What happens? So wealth is also in form of children. So therefore, this is what we call these Lakshmi, the principles, laws. Can you decide all of this? How much? If everybody can decide on their own, what? Everybody will be the richest in the world. Everybody will have the best of the homes. You operate within the laws. So this is where you call it Lakshmi. Everybody wants intelligence. But how much intelligence one has in what sphere is something which is again governed by laws. Okay? Somebody is a great scientist, somebody is a mathematician, somebody is a great medical doctor, somebody is a great artist, somebody is a great dancer. All these talents, all intelligence, but in different spheres, in different degrees. And there is a law which governs. Why somebody is born with this natural inclination towards piano, and the other one towards violin, and the third one towards sitar? Laws. In that law, we name it. What is the name? Saraswati. You invoke the grace of Saraswati by saying, give me that intelligence. Ask for it. Recognize the laws which govern your life. Recognize the fact that you can't change everything overnight according to your needs and your wishes. Okay? So that is what we call Saraswati. Then everybody has some amount of obstacles in one's life. So therefore, we have Vigna Raja. Who's Vigna Raja? Ganesha. So you invoke the grace of Ganesha to remove the obstacles in your life. Highly intelligent living, recognizing so many different laws that we live within. You invoke the grace of Ganesha. Then within this universe, you will see that intelligence is constantly what? Producing new things. The time which was there has become what? Gone, and but the new moment is produced. Constantly new cells are born, new objects come into being. That principle, because of which the laws which govern the coming into being of things is what we call karma. But as things come, also things go. So that means there is a constant creation and there is also what? Constant destruction. That principle of this destruction which is within that intelligence you call Shiva, Rudra. Okay. And between the constant birth and death there is a seeming stability. Imagine if your eyes were programmed differently and you could see all the changes in the cells constantly, and all the fact that the earth and the galaxies and everything is moving fast, you will not be able to deal with what? All the different situations and think about things. So there is, between this constant birth and death, there is a seeming stability which enables us to interact with each other and live in a stable world. That principle is what we call Vishnu. The whole Vedic vision is the presence of Ishvara, but seeing it from different standpoints. Otherwise, I just say all intelligence. What does it mean, all intelligence? My brain is like a very dumb brain. But if I look into that intelligence and if I name it and if I become aware of it, then my whole being becomes aware of that presence of intelligence from so many different standpoints within which I live. Temple is a place which reminds me of the presence of that intelligence. Because otherwise, my life is such that I can live in this world and that presence of that intelligence can totally elude my awareness. Very important. Vedic vision, you are not praying to the stone. That stone represents what? Shiva. Shiva is that principle which what? Destroys. And that destruction is generally what? We are afraid of destruction. Okay? Now, you use that power of destruction, then you understand there is a power of destruction, to ask for help from that power of destruction and say, destroy my sadness. Power of destruction is not negative. You need power of destruction. Otherwise, you will be stuck with all your problems forever. Changing. The minute you recognize the presence of the force, use the understanding of that force to help yourself. This is called intelligent living. Otherwise, you live like a complete zombie, no idea about what the world is. Intelligence, brilliance, clarity, Vedic vision. You also recognize the fact that in any given situation, there are so many unknowns. You cannot possibly know all the factors that are involved in a given situation. And you still have to make the decision. Okay. Then, for that intelligence, to that intelligence, you ask for clarity. That clarity is what? Asking for clarity is that thing. A boy of 11 years old is introduced to Gayatri. Because there is one thing, any given thing in this world you may need today, but you may not need 10 years from now. But one thing that you always need in your life, and that is what? Clear mind. caliber of thinking. You ask for that. Once you have that, you can deal with anything, all the changing situations in the world. This is Vedic vision of Ishvara. And the whole culture is based on this vision. This is why we don't name wealth as material. We see it as Lakshmi, divinity. This is why in Deepavali, what do? We light up lamps and we welcome Lakshmi. We don't say, hey, you are material, so please go away, I am spiritual being. We don't have this huge problem of dichotomy. The vision, the Vedic vision is all that is here is Ishvara. The minute you divide the world into spiritual and material, you create a division which doesn't exist. Then you think that you shun material things and you are more and more, you are just in your own world. This is not in keeping with realities. Holistic vision, which takes into account everything. Okay? And what it does is your wisdom increases. Your wisdom increases because what is, you see it as it is. And you use it for your own what? Evolution. Okay? So this is where an understanding Ishvara being everything is still free from everything. That intelligence which is not afflicted with any of the problems or any of the, you can't even give any attribute of good. It is within which the good and bad exist. Itself is free from both. That Ishvara, which is the source of everything, you are constantly in touch through many understanding of many laws in which it manifests.
So you go to the temple not to find God, just to acknowledge.
To acknowledge the fact, because you need to bring in your mind the presence. Otherwise, what
there's a place
is,
that you know, okay, you go to and
see, what happens is people say, oh yeah, but if I understand this, so why should I do this act? It's true. I mean, it's true that if you understand, first of all, people don't understand who they are praying to. Okay? And they don't even understand that, what is the nature of Ishvara. And they said, okay, now if I understand it, is it enough? Why do I then need to go and pray? Like, well, let's say if I understood. But whole life, I'm very happy you asked this question. Okay? The whole life is lived within forms. So for example, if you are relating to somebody, that you love that person, is it enough just for you to know that you love that person? To say it. You need to verbally say it and you need to physically express it. This is why so many of the kids, because of inappropriate expression of love, most of the people feel not loved. Deep inside, they feel that all their needs of being loved were not met. It's not just sufficient to feel, to think that you love somebody. It is extremely important to express that love. Only in that expression that love grows. Okay? Similarly, it's not sufficient to understand Ishvara is everything. You need to express through some act. In that act, you have a choice. You can choose to go over a temple, you prefer mountains, you prefer the sun, you have a choice.
That's what I mean, like some people may make a temple in the house and pray there.
Yeah.
Some will go out to a
Exactly,
temple.
all this choice is available.
And some can concentrate sitting on a bed and just pray, acknowledging God and all things.
Exactly. All these different forms are available. All but the non-negotiable thing is bring the presence of Ishvara in your decision and in your life. And Ishvara is not just and the right understanding of Ishvara. Ishvara as all these various things, not just one thing. When your life is really somehow, you will begin to experience grace of Ishvara because your life is aligned with what is, which is Ishvara. Your life will change. It cannot not change. Okay, so now I've gone way over, but this is basically the whole thing of Ishvara is. Om Purnamada Purnamidam Purnat Purnamudachyate Purnasya Purnamadaya Purnamevavashishyate. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti.